Okay, we're going to give it a few more minutes, everybody, just because it's 7:30 and it's probably wrapping up dinner time and stuff like that. So we look forward to a few more of us joining on. Just a couple announcements we want to make while we're waiting for more people to sign in. This month, our Long Island RIA General Meeting will be April 15th at the Huntington Hilton. We'll be in the Savoy Room, which is the large room to the left of the entrance when you first walk in. So we'll be there. That's April 15th, this coming Tuesday. A couple of other announcements, since most of the people are joining us are apprentice students. We just want to remind you that Apprentice 3 is having your class April 12th. We'll be at our new location, which I'm sure you're going to like. It's at the Continental Home Loans office. That is 175 Pine Lawn Avenue, Suite 303. We'll send out an email reminder of the address, but it's right on Pine Lawn Avenue. And then for the Apprentice 4 students, your class will be Sunday, April 27th in the same location. Okay, so that's some of the announcements that we have right now. I also want to invite Chris to come join us. He's on the webinar as well. That's Chris McCartney. He's the Educational Director with Long Island RIA. So, Chris, you can give any announcements you have there, too.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Hope everything's going well. So tonight we have Jack Krupey from Gemini Capital Managers, and he's going to teach us about note buying and how to make defaulted note paper performing. And as Melissa said, our next meeting is April 15th, and then Jack is also doing a class on April 19th about so it's going to be a full day workshop class all about defaulted paper and learning about the note business. And I believe, Jack, you also have paper actually there to purchase as well, correct?
Yes, and I know we've been working a lot on our site and getting our inventory organized, and the plan is to have a number of good quality notes available to actually review while we're in class to teach due diligence on real deals.
Okay, great. And yeah, we'll also have internet access there, so everybody can bring their computers and analyze deals as well while they're there.
Where's the class being held, Chris?
It's at the Sheraton in Plainview, and it goes from 9 a.m. until 4:30 p.m.
Okay. All right, so we have a good amount of people joining us, so we want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This is our first Long Island RIA webinar, so we'll get some of our glitches out tonight, but we're hoping to do this at least every month. This is just to add into addition to the topic that we're doing that month. This just gives a more in-depth education, and feel free to ask questions. There's a chat area. If you have a question, feel free to post it. We can view it, and Jack will have a time at the end to answer these questions, okay? So without further ado, we'd like to invite Jack from Gemini Capital to talk about discounted notes. Jack, take it away.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm just doing the screen share right now. Hopefully, I have two monitors here, so hopefully this works here with the PowerPoint presentation. For those of you who hadn't met me before, let me just give you the brief background. I've been in notes since 2008, but I've been in real estate since 2001. I got into real estate shortly after the dot-com crash. So yeah, I graduated college and thought I was going to be this big computer consultant, and realized there was no dot-com jobs anymore. And fortunately, my college landlord got me into real estate. So I bought my first house in 2001, and by 2002, I'd quit my job. And from 02 to 08, I really rode the wave. I was flipping houses. I was wholesaling. I've done almost every strategy out there. So when I talk about notes, it's not that I necessarily think notes are are better. Although it's what I've chosen to do, I can advise with the perspective of someone who's done it all. I refer to myself jokingly as a recovering landlord because at one point I had 52 units of rental property and drove myself crazy and created myself a 100-hour-a-week job that I hated it. So one of the points that I'd like to make is that it's crashes can help. The .com crash got me into real estate, and then the subprime crisis cost a lot of money. I crashed and burned to some extent, but it was actually a great opportunity. Funny quote I'd heard when someone was talking about the crash of 2008 is that it was actually worse than divorce because he lost half his money and still had his wife. Anyway, it's joke's not the same when I can't hear everyone in the background here. Hopefully somebody thought it was funny.
I was laughing, Jack. I thought it was funny.
Thank you. I'll be here all week. Anyway, so in 2008, I ended up at a hedge fund in New York, and this fund was buying large pools of loans from the major investment banks, other large hedge funds, and including PNC, Wells Fargo. So I got thrown into the fire, and I was the guy on the inside that was working out loan modifications, and it was really the first time I was aware of this market. The market's been around, but it really wasn't until the crash of '08 where now there's millions of loans that are now non-performing that it became available for the average investor. So I worked at this fund for 2 years, and then decided I wanted to do this myself, and went on my own and started brokering deals and raising money. As of now, Gemini has over 10 million under management, and we just signed a joint venture with a private equity fund here in New York, where they've given us up to 100 million to purchase with them, as long as we can find the right deals. So it's not that they've written us a check, but if we bring pools to the table and they review them and we like them, they will co-invest with us with almost unlimited capital. So I want to talk about why you'd want to do this. There's many reasons, but the key reasons are pricing. You can buy these notes well below what the current value of the house is. It's getting more and more competitive to chase REOs. Short sales are getting harder to approve, and by buying the loan and being the bank, it puts you in a better position. And it's one of the only areas where you can consistently still buy at well below market value for the property. And I'm going to cover some basic concerns, typical questions I've gotten from new investors. I'm going to talk briefly about due diligence. Due diligence is definitely something we can cover for hours. So when we do have the full day class, we're going to actually go through some live examples and actually research deals while we're in the room. And that's really the best way to learn. There's only so much you get from watching, and the rest of it happens while you're doing. I'm going to talk about servicing. We manage over $10 million with 4 people. We have a lot of consultants and a lot of help from outside vendors, but it's the type of business you do not need to have a large staff or any staff. And unlike real estate, you don't have to deal with tenants and toilets. You're really a step removed from that. And if we have time, I'm going to go through some actual deals. So, it's I often get the question of why are the banks selling? How can you get these loans so cheap? And ultimately, it's regulation. The banks are regulated by the Federal Deposit Insurance Commission, and they have ratios they need to meet. If they have too many non-performing loans, the government says that they need to raise additional funds, and they have 2 choices. They either go out and raise more capital, or they can sell the loans, even if they're selling at a loss. So in most cases, the banks choose to sell at a loss. there are also some securitizations. Some of these loans are, even if they're serviced by a bank, they're really not owned by the bank themselves. They're actually one of those mortgage-backed securities that were, pulled out and sold by Wall Street. So in some cases, it's actually the bond investors that are taking the loss, and the bank or the servicer is only in charge of liquidating. So sometimes the loss is actually through, at this point, probably some fund in Europe that was sold it as a AAA security and realized that it's not. So it's the bank's losses are our gain. And that's why we're consistently able to buy, anywhere from 20 to 70% of a discount to the current market value of the house. I'll go into pricing a little bit more on later slides because it varies. The rule of thumb is the cheaper the house, the bigger the discount, and I'll go through the ranges of that on later slides. And Gemini is really, think of us as sort of a bridge between Wall Street and Main Street. Wells Fargo doesn't want to sell one loan. They're going to sell $500 million worth of loans to a hedge fund way bigger than Gemini. But Gemini does deal with a number of investment banks and hedge funds, guys that will sell us $1 million or $2 million or $5 million, and they'll buy $500 million and then resell us a smaller batch. So it's a great niche for us to be in, and we think we add value in both directions, because we look at deals that are too small for some of these larger groups, and sometimes we'll actually pull together a few different pools, then make a bigger batch for the bigger hedge funds, and we do the same thing in reverse. We'll work with them and take 100 loans, then resell them 1 or 2 loans at a time to Main Street investors like you guys. So, and the last point, I don't think this is happening as much in New York or Long Island, but other markets like South Florida, California, Phoenix, there are many markets that people who used to buy at the courthouse steps and flip houses just can't find inventory because the big hedge funds are buying all the rental properties and paying retail. So this is certainly a wholesale type opportunity, where you're going to be ahead of the curve and ahead of the other typical investors that you may work with locally that are just not aware of the opportunities. So we deal with performing and non-performing loans. Non-performing loans, I think of it as sort of as if you're a house flipper, a non-performing loan is an ideal transition. You're buying at a discount to the current value, and you're going to flip that loan in a few different ways. You may foreclose, and if you foreclose, you will then flip the house. But instead of buying it at a discount or doing a short sale, you've already bought the loan at a discount, and you may have some cost to foreclose, but you've already bought it at 50, 60, 65% of market value. And if you do take it back, you should have enough room to sell the house for closer to market value. Rehabbers will always ask me the question, well, I would never buy a house for more than 60, 65% of value. Why would I pay the same for a non-performing loan? And just keep in mind that many of these houses are not going to be in bad condition. Some of them, the worst case could be, but it's not uncommon to pay 55 or 60% and just have to slap a $1,500 coat of paint on a house, and it's ready to list. So in some cases you don't do anything. In some cases you put a for sale sign on it, and buy it for 60% and then sell it for 85%, and you don't even need to do anything. Reperforming loans are great for cash flow, and generally you're going to have a similar return to what you get from a rental property without dealing with the tenants and toilets. And the yields will vary if there's equity or the higher priced houses. Generally, your cash on cash return. And when I quote yield here, I'm really talking I'm talking cap rate. If you paid $20,000 for a mortgage and you make $2,000 a year, you're making 10%. Now, on top of that, you do have upside, because keep in mind, when you're buying a loan for less than face value, if and when they sell the property or refinance, they owe you the entire amount. So I'll show some examples later of how powerful this is, where you may make 8 to 10% a year, but over the course of 3 to 5 years, you may make 20% if the loan pays off through any number of different programs. And reperforming consists of newly modified loans, loans that have been paying for a year, loans that have been paying for 5 years, and including loans in bankruptcy, which is one of our special niches. We love loans in bankruptcy, and I'll go through a little later why bankruptcy is not a bad thing. I want to talk about due diligence here. We are buying loans nationwide. We did about 300 individual deals last year, and I believe we were in 36 different states. So I often will ask people to guess how many houses I've been inside prior to buying of these 300 deals, and the answer is 0. We use a number of different steps to review these loans prior to purchase, and when we start, it's the free services like Zillow or Trulia. When I get sent a deal, I don't want to automatically spend money reviewing it. I want to just get a feel for what we're looking at. Is it a nice condo in Miami, or is it a rural house that doesn't even show up on Zillow? So we use it to. I don't take the Z estimate or any number that comes from any of these sources and write a check because of it. But it's you can learn a lot from these services. Google Maps is amazing. You can drive the street in many areas, and you can see, does it look like a nice area where people are mowing their lawns and houses are well taken care of, or does it look like the Google Maps camera actually caught a drive-by in progress and you have boarded up houses everywhere? Zipskinny and a number of other tools can pull census data, and you can see what the average income is, the average amount of people who've graduated high school, have bachelor's degrees, and you can learn a lot about a market just by taking 5 minutes and pulling up these free services. We also have a number of paid services. Red Bell is one of my favorites. It gives MLS access. They charge per property search. It's $25, and 93% of the country, we could type in an address and we will see, A, was the property ever listed, and B, we could look at the active and the sold comparables and see the realtors' names and phone numbers. So if we're looking at a deal, we could look at the house down the street sold. We can call the agent who just sold that house and tell him that we may have a possible pre-foreclosure in his neighborhood, and we want to ask him some market questions, because if we do take the house back via foreclosure, we're going to need someone to list it. And that gives us an amazing amount of information. And the next step is broker's price opinions. For about $100, we can provide a list of properties, and within 3 to 5 days, a realtor in every one of those markets will get back to us with a full report of active solds and what their opinion of value is. And sometimes their values are dead on. Sometimes they're being paid $50 to do this out of the 100 that we pay the vendor, and sometimes they, just sort of slap a number on the house, and it's not always. We don't always agree with the number, but it's one of the pieces of data we get. And as an experienced, or even if you're not that experienced of a real estate investor, if you take all this data together, between the data you've gotten online and talking to an actual real estate agent and ordering a report, within a day or two, you could look at any market in this country whether it's New York, Indiana, Oregon, and within a day or so, you should be able to have a very good idea what a property is worth with just with using some basic research tools that we're recommending. Title reports, same thing. We have a few great vendors that do title reports, and many counties have the taxes available online. However, if they don't, these vendors for typically less than $100 can do a full title search, and they'll tell you what the property taxes are and what the liens, any second liens or any tax liens that are ahead of you. When you're buying a mortgage, you only have to worry about the liens that are ahead of you, and those are property taxes and municipal liens. A second mortgage, a judgment, anything that goes on title after your mortgage that you're purchasing was originated is behind you. And if you foreclose, you will wipe all of them out. Here's a deal we did, and I'd like to show the ugly one first. This is a deal that at one point we were a little concerned on. It looks like a really nice house on the outside. It's in a nice part of Indiana, in Indianapolis, and we thought we got a really good deal on it, which ultimately we did. We really paid about $16,000 because we bought the loan for $11,800, and when we bought it, we knew there were about $4,600 in taxes that we needed to pay, and I think we paid a $1,000 commission to a broker who brought us the deal. And we thought worst case the house was worth $40,000, and best case around $60,000. So what was good about this deal is the moment we bought it, within a week or two, we'd actually gotten a hold of the owner, and the owner basically handed our realtor the keys and said, listen, I don't want this house. You can have it. I'm not going to fight the foreclosure. He would have actually signed it over, but because there was a second mortgage and some other judgments, we didn't want to take the deed. We would rather foreclose because the foreclosure basically gave us clean title. But in the meantime, we had access to get inside the house, and we started doing estimates. And we could have still made money, but we are not generally trying to do large construction projects in any market. We're happy to do a paint and carpet and spend a few thousand to clean up a house, but we are trying to avoid big rehabs. So while we were prepared to do the renovation, we decided to list the property at auction, and this is through the foreclosure auction, whereas all we needed to do was email our attorney what bid we would accept. You're allowed to bid as high as the debt that you're owed. So I didn't put it on this slide, but in this case, they owed us over $80,000, even though we only paid $11,000 for the debt. And what happened was we put an ad on Craigslist, and we let all the local investors know that, hey, on September 15th, we are going to auction this property, and it's a $60,000 neighborhood. So we said that our opening bid was going to be $10,000. So we wanted to generate interest. And what happened was somebody showed up at the courthouse steps, and there was a little bit of a bidding war. And somebody paid $29,500 for that house, and we received a check the next day from our attorney, and we never actually ever even took ownership of it. So even if the deal needs some work, you're generally buying at a big enough discount that the local house flippers can actually buy the houses off you to make money. This is one of my favorite deals. And can everyone hear me okay? Melissa, Chris, does it sound good?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Actually, you're doing really great.
All right, thank you.
Usually I butt in, but I'm really being quiet now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you too as well, and
Okay.
I'm also on another computer, and it sounds good.
Okay, cool. Just had to make sure. I know I dropped a cell phone call yesterday, and I think I talked for like 5 minutes before I realized the call dropped. So always like to make sure. Um, so here's an example of a reperforming deal. We bought this loan, and this picture was the actual picture from I think that's a Google Maps picture. You can see that little A or the little dot in the middle of the property there. So we saw this on an Excel spreadsheet that had probably 30, 40 deals on it, and we were going through one by one and trying to pick which deals looked decent. So when you plug this into Google Maps, I mean, you could tell they're mowing their lawn. You see decent cars in the driveway. There's no cars on blocks in the driveway. If you Google Map around the area, you'd see that all the houses look to be in decent shape, and at first glance, it looked like a good deal. We actually then reviewed the broker's price opinion, and in this case, we were given one because the group selling had just bought about 100 assets, and so they bought 100 in bulk, and then they were actually selling them off in smaller pools, so and letting us pick which ones we wanted. So we reviewed. We looked at the comparable sales, looked at the Google Maps, just did all the same research I went through, checked the property taxes, and we were able to buy this deal for roughly 50% of value. Now, this was about a year ago, and as the market's improved, a house that's worth $85,000 now, we would even pay probably 60%, maybe 65% ourselves. So pricing has went up a little bit, but there's still plenty of meat on the bone on these deals. And this is one, I don't talk to many borrowers myself now because we use an outsourced company, but this is one of the borrowers I got on the phone myself. And the borrower was happy to hear from us. She had been wanting to do a loan mod, but the previous bank kept losing her paperwork and they couldn't get anything approved. So we spoke, and what I'd asked her to do was make a payment in good faith, just to resume making her old mortgage payments in good faith. And I said, as long as you pay every month, we're not going to foreclose, and we'll work with you over time to try to get a refinance through. So she made a payment by phone directly into our loan servicer, and I think that's the next slide. But we don't do any accounting in our office. We use a third-party company that does all the servicing, all the compliance. They send the monthly statements to the borrowers. So no money flows through this office. You don't have to know how to read an amortization schedule. You don't have to send statements. You don't have to do anything like that. So, and you don't even have to talk to the borrower if you don't want to. So this borrower was paying for over a year, and we could have held the loan longer and tried to eventually work to do an FHA refinance where she'd pay us off in full. But what ended up happening is there's another hedge fund that we know that loves to buy performing loans. And once a loan has been paid for 12 months in a row, it becomes extremely, or a lot more valuable. There's buyers that will buy loans with 1 month, 3 months, 6 months of payments, but once a deal's been paying more than 12 months, it does go up in price. So we sold this along with some other loans to a hedge fund, and we, with what we paid for it, we collected, I think, 14, 15 months worth of payments, and we sold it for a nice large profit. So we made a total of $37,000 in a year and 3 months. So this was a great deal for us, and the borrower was happy. We're happy, and the point here is, everyone's first thought is always, oh, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to foreclose it. But so many of these non-performing loans are not because the person's a deadbeat. It's usually that bad things happen to good people. They got behind a few years ago and could never get caught back up. And the banks being a big bureaucracy and just not being able to process a modification that makes sense. So I'll cover some more example deals, as we have time, but I want to get through the servicing and operations and make sure we have time for questions as well. So as I said, you don't have to do anything as far as talking to the borrower or really know how to do any of the nitty-gritty deals with these loans. So you could put any loan you buy in a full service program where the servicer will reach out to the borrower, and that includes doing what's called a skip trace and finding them and finding unlisted phone numbers. As an additional service, they can also send a door knocker where they'll send a trained loss mitigation agent to the door with a package with that for them. And if the borrower's willing, they can actually get them on the phone with your loan servicer while someone's sitting at their kitchen table to try to work out a deal. They will process all the loan modification paperwork. They will manage, if you do need to go to foreclosure, they all have attorneys in their network. So you don't have to find and hire an attorney. They have an attorney that already works at a flat fee per for foreclosure. So you're not running up a $300 an hour bill. In Indiana, it could be $1,800 to foreclose. In Georgia, $1,300. So it's generally probably cheaper to foreclose in most states than it is to evict in New York. They'll handle, if you want them to, they'll even handle if you do take a foreclosure to REO. They'll even sell it for you and do, what I described in that deal in Indiana. They'll do that for you if you want them to. And, a number of groups will do this. I mean, we can help sell. If you get a loan that was non-performing and it's performing and you want to sell it, that's a service we would provide to help you sell. But sometimes the loan servicers also have other clients that just want cash flow. So you may find the servicer could help you in selling a loan. Now, if you want to be more hands-on, most servicers also have a more limited service approach where they'll do the accounting, but they won't be as aggressive, and they'll charge you less of a monthly fee, because they're doing less work. The full service is usually between $65 and $99 a month, depending on your level of service, and they'll do everything. Once the loan goes performing, they will drop the fee to generally anywhere as low as maybe $15 to $30 a month. So once the borrower starts paying, you're not paying the same amount of money. They're dropping the servicing fee to roughly $30 or less a month. A limited service is usually around $30 as well, and that's just for them to do the accounting and not have to be as aggressive in reaching out to the borrower. So a good example is we bought a loan where we knew the borrower was dead, and we told the servicer, just put it on limited servicing because we know we're going to have to foreclose, and unless you're going to do a seance, I don't think it's worth collecting and paying you between $75 and $90 to collect on this loan. So there's a lot of ways to exit these deals, and we've done every one on this list and probably 5 or 10 more that I didn't think to put on here. The simplest is to foreclose and sell. If you're looking for rental properties, it's a great way to get access to to cash flowing deals at a much lower cost than trying to find them on the MLS. We have done this a few times, especially in the lower priced areas, outside of New York. We have a deal in Florida right now on the Panhandle, and we've got a deal in Indiana that if you do take the house back from the borrower, you could sell it, but in many cases we'll actually own or finance it to a new buyer, and that helps us pay less taxes. And we want cash flow, we just don't want to be landlords. So for us, it's the best of both worlds. Modify the loan and hold for cash flow. I showed a good example of that. Modify the loan and assist the borrower in working through a refinance. We could have did that on the one deal in Cincinnati, we just happened to get a good offer that made sense and we sold it. But it's a great long-term option is to hold for cash flow, and since you paid less than what they owe, when they pay you off, you're making additional profit. And modify to sell to another investor is what we just did on that deal. And some of the deals that we show to the Long Island RIA are those exact scenarios, because we have money to manage, but sometimes we need to take our chips off the table, and it's a win-win for us if we can modify a loan, collect some payments, but at some point we need to return investor money as well. So it's great, and we provide good, solid cash flowing opportunities to investors. Here's a typical foreclosure scenario. Again, this was another deal in Indianapolis, and this is one that we actually went through and did do a little work, and were able to resell the property. So we paid about 60 grand. The house was worth anywhere from, we thought on the low end 95, the high end 120. So we bought it. We finished the foreclosure. The owners, or the borrower, basically moved out right within the week of us foreclosing. They did leave enough furniture in the house that it took 2 40-yard dumpsters to clean out the house. But they didn't trash the place. They weren't kicking holes in walls, and in general, we have not had issues. That's sort of a worst case scenario that can happen. Just like if you have a rental property, your tenants could trash it when they leave. But in general, we haven't had issues, and we try to do the right thing and be fair to who we're working with. We'd rather pay someone $1,000 to help them get a moving truck than have to get a 40-yard dumpster and spend $500,000 taking out their stuff anyway. So, especially if there's room in the deal, we try to make a win-win solution and try to make the transition easy for who we're working with. So on this deal, we paid a little under $60,000. We did a paint and carpet, and those types of rehabs we will do. And we used our realtor. If you have a good listing agent, that agent can be your project manager. If they're a licensed realtor, they're much less likely to steal your money and take money for a rehab project and not finish it. So our realtor, in most markets, we have realtors. Anyone who focuses on foreclosures and REOs knows a few general contractors. So they recommended a contractor. We got 2 different bids. The contractor did the work. The realtor sent us photos. We sent a check to the realtor and asked the realtor to send us photos and not release the check to the contractor until they confirmed the job was done. And the realtor doesn't get paid until they sell the house. So you bet that our realtors are staying on top of the contractor to make sure it's done right and that it looks good, because if not, they're not going to be able to sell the house. So this is one of many deals. So the point I want to drive across is, it's not that difficult to work in a market outside of your own. And the reason we are not showing a lot of deals in New York and New Jersey is just purely because of the time it takes. It could take 2-3 years to foreclose or longer in New York, New Jersey, whereas Indiana is 7 months, Texas is 2 months, Georgia is 2 to 3 months. So it's it's a great market. And Chris, I just saw your note that the slides are lagging a little bit, so I'll be conscious of that. I think I won't move slides too much faster, actually. Do we have any questions so far?
Sorry, I'm actually quiet for so long. No, I was just going to say, if any of you guys you went over specific deals and stuff like that. I was just going to say, does anybody have any questions about how those deals were done? Like, how do you find a good realtor in the area and stuff like that? How do you build your team?
It's a great question, Melissa. We'll sometimes it's as simple as going on Zillow and seeing seeing an agent that advertises nearby or has another listing in the area. The other thing we'll do is that Red Bell tool that I mentioned. We'll look for agents that have sold similar properties in that area as well. And if they were successful at selling the house down the street, and it looks like they work with REOs, then those are the realtors we tend to target. So we try to avoid if it's sort of a hoity-toity realtor that generally just lists pretty houses for rich people.
Right.
We try to avoid them, and we want the realtor that gets it. It's basic, simple questions. Just are they comfortable listing foreclosures? Do they have? If a realtor doesn't have a guy that can rekey your house, they're not the realtor for us.
Right.
If we have a new foreclosure, we call normally we'll call one or two agents. The guy that calls us back and has a guy there or guy or girl there in 6 hours, changes the locks, puts a lockbox on it, and is ready to work with us. That's the agent we go with, and you'll find. Most markets there's hungry realtors looking for business with a fund, and even if it's only your first note, there's an old saying, fake it till you make it. Most of you have nice New York, Long Island accents. You don't say, oh, I'm new, this is my first deal. You say, I have a mortgage investment company based in New York, and we buy nationwide, and people will generally bend over backwards to work with you because they're going to want future deals.
Yeah, typically, how much is your rehabs to do? Because I know I work on it from the New York side, and that's always sometimes an issue with some of the contractors. So are we talking more like carpet, paint, those kind of things, or is there real trashed out houses?
There certainly can be. I mean, our threshold in general is about $10,000. If it's paint, carpet, basic, kind of cleanup, we'll do it. If it needs $20,000, if it's a gut, or if the roof is shot and needs new drywall, full kitchens, full bath, there comes a point where we want to avoid something that's a potential nightmare, and it's a matter of will we get our money out of the deal. If it's a really nice house and we can put $50,000 in to make $150, we'll do it. But if I'm putting 50 in to make 20 grand extra, then there's a point where we'll cut our losses and we would just rather sell. Then we'll just discount it further and still hopefully make a small profit.
Right.
But we're not gonna throw good money after bad. So, in this scenario in Indiana, where it worked out fine and we made a good return. If we had to put in $25,000 into this deal, we wouldn't have did it. We would have sold it at $64,900 and just try to make a quick $5,000 and move on to a different deal.
Okay. So people shouldn't really be intimidated with some of the rehabs, especially because their price points are a lot lower in the states that you're working in, correct?
Yes. I think that's that's valid. You're working. When the cost of living is a lot cheaper in Indiana, the contractors don't charge. I think what's it cost to get a water heater replaced in Long Island? Like $800 or $900. It's probably like $450 in the Midwest.
Right. Okay.
And then down in the south, the Southwest too. Then you've got, actually, we have a deal in Fort Wayne, Indiana right now. Our contractors are actually Amish.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if I think they're half Amish because I think they are using power tools and stuff. But the realtor recommended them and said they do really good work. Yeah,
actually, when we were in Alabama, I had a lot of Mennonites. They are Amish that can use electric. They can use modern. They have them Amish lifestyle, but they're allowed to use modern electric and appliances and go to doctors and stuff like that. So, yeah, I found that the rehabs, comparatively, like in Alabama, how I can get $10,000, a lot further down there than I can up here, just simply because the labor rates are very different in those two markets. So, but I think it's, for those that are listening, I think this is a really great strategy to help you guys broaden out and not be so locked into wholesaling and rehabbing. I did notes, and I wish I had somebody like you who could help me do the servicing end of it. But I did like that every month I had a payment coming in, whether or not the toilet was broken or something was done. It didn't matter. I was the bank. So I encourage you to kind of explore this a little bit. And this month we're working on all notes, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to learn how they work. And what do the typical notes start at on something like this, Jack?
There are plenty of deals we've done for $5,000, $10,000 $10,000 purchase. Can everyone see the note exchange? I just switched from the PowerPoint really quick to the note exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where we're kind of going with things, which it's going to make it a lot easier for I think for us to manage our inventory and get quality deals in front of our clients. So this is the new website. It's in beta test right now, and you could search for at this point we only have non-performing, so it's only showing non, but you'll be able to search for performing loans, and you could sort by by city, by state of what's available. Please note this data is not fully up to date, so if you want to poke around, great, but there's no guarantee that anything on here today is still available. I do need to refresh, but you can pick an area and hit find notes, and you can take a look. And once you log in and create an account, it hides the address right now. But once you log in, you'll be able to eventually see the full address and certain details that are only for people who have an account and have signed a non-disclosure agreement. Deals, a $20,000 or $30,000 house, you could generally buy that loan for $10,000, $12,000. Usually 30-35% of market value. Once you're dealing with above a $50,000 value, it's generally around 50 to 60% of value for a non-performing loan. And once you're above 100,000, it's generally in the 60s of current market value. So this loan in Columbus, the property value, we didn't have a value on this, but just looking at it, I think this is probably a $30,000 property. And the fact that they owe $138,000, if the house is worth less, what they owe is almost irrelevant. The only way it helps is if the borrower does want to reperform, their old monthly payment was $1,100 a month. So if you want to be a hero, and you paid $10,000, $15,000 for this deal, and you say, listen, your old payment was $1,100, I'm going to drop it to $500 and help you keep your house. That it puts you in a great position to help them and also make a really good return on investment.
You know what also I like about these, because they're at the price point that you guys can use for your self-directed IRAs. And also, we've been working with some of the mentoring students with unsecured lines of credit that because of the rates of return that you get on this compared to the interest rate that you would use with your IRAs, it has a really good feature to it. So I think, I think having notes is a really great way to broaden out your perspective of being a real estate investor. And some just really will naturally gravitate to it. you know, I just think it's a really cool idea to be the bank and to be able to help somebody stay in their home or work out some kind of arrangement. So you work with self-directed IRAs and things like that, correct?
Yes, we do. There's a few custodians that work better with notes, that understand notes. Equity trust is unfortunately not one of them. They're so big and so strict, like they have a set exact system that it can be difficult. But there's a number like Quest IRA and Mid Atlantic IRA, and what it really takes is us. If it's one we hadn't worked with, it just takes us explaining the process, because there's not most of these deals. It's sort of like buying on Amazon in a way. The loan collateral paperwork is typically already with a third party, and when you fund, what we call a custodian who holds the paperwork.
Right.
When you fund, you close directly with the seller, and then the seller notifies the custodian to ship the paperwork to your custodian. And we generally, when someone buys a loan from us, we'll generally have them set up an account with a group that does all the assignment recording. So for us, we use a company called CSC, and they record in every county in the country. So if I buy a loan in Alabama, I don't know if Alabama requires $30 to record or $50, and does it need to be on legal size paper? Do you need 2 notary stamps or 1 notary stamp? Every county has different rules. So we just use a consulting firm called CSC as our custodian, and they do it all.
Okay.
And that's the type of stuff we go over with the with the custodian, because a lot of them that just deal with real estate assume there's an attorney in a closing, and these deals are generally hedge fund to hedge fund or hedge fund to buyer, and rarely is there a sit down closing.
Right. Okay.
But it is a great way to go. It is tax, especially if it's a Roth, it's tax deferred. So when you get that big payoff, and when a loan cashes out, you don't have to pay your taxes on it.
Okay. When it pays out?
Well, I think one of the best benefits of doing this in a Roth is that you have a lot of upside. If you bought a loan and you've collected payments for 5 years, then the borrower pays you off in full because they sell the house. That could be a huge capital appreciation event right there. And if you do that over the course of 10, 20 years, and it's tax free when you withdraw the money, that's extremely, extremely powerful.
Okay. Very cool. All right, so I hope everybody found this helpful. Just so you know, there is going to be a class. Chris, when is the class? April 19th, I believe it is.
Correct, yeah, April 19th. And I don't know if you saw on the, there's a pop-up that came up a little while ago. You can actually go ahead and get a ticket to the class right from the webinar.
Okay, if you can't get it, because I can't see it right now, just go to our website. You guys can sign up on there and register for that class. It's a really good in-depth way, and it's nice when you're face-to-face with Jack, because you can ask him more questions and see how he's doing the due diligence on these properties and what's the advantages of being a bank. So, Chris, do you have anything to add, or Jack?
Yeah, you can actually get, if you click on pop-ins on the top above the chat, you'll see the link and all that. And then I'm also going to send everybody a survey. So if everybody could just fill that out and just let us know how everything went tonight, because we want to improve the educational content for you guys as well as the presentation format. All right, thank you.
Hey guys, I see a question here from Brian. How do you compare it to the National Note Group? Is that Fuquan? Brian, I don't know if you're on mute or if you can hear, but I'm trying to think which. There's a couple groups with similar names. I'm not sure if that's Fuquan's group or one of the other groups in Jersey.
I think he's responding.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm not sure specifically which group, but there are, a number of, brokers and, a good mix of people that are, buying notes and also sort of, doing some of their own education. Philadelphia has just a ton of note groups. Some of the early guys into the space, like PPR, started in 2003, 2004, and so you go to Philadelphia and there's like different meetup groups, and notes are already a little bit more mainstream. So yeah, I mean, I like Fuquan. I've had met with him at a number of the different conferences, and I think they're doing a similar model of I think educating and probably wholesaling some loans that they have as well. I don't know exactly how much capital they have under management or if they're sourcing for other groups, but yeah, he's a good guy, and I think we haven't done a trade with him specifically yet, but I'm sure at some point we'll probably sell him something or buy something from him in the future. So, we're doing this. I don't have any education other than I think whatever the RIA charges, which ultimately probably barely covers the room. But we're doing this just to build a base, and as we grow and have hundreds and hundreds of more assets, we just it makes sense for us to train for free, so that eventually we have more investment partners, so that we can sell a performing loan if we need to cash out at a fair price, or if we get 100 loans in and it's too many for us to handle, we can wholesale a few of them off. So it just makes sense to to help bring other people into the fold, and hopefully you guys are those people.
That'd be great.
One other note, I listed the email address here. Sales at Gemini goes to myself and Tim, and also our admin. So, I mean, if you have a very personal question, you could send it to Jack at Gemini. But if you send it to sales, the rest of my team also gets it, and I can be a bit scatterbrained. I've got 10 different things going on. So for better customer service, I ask everyone to contact the sales address, and then we'll make sure that we every email is categorized and answered, and I do monitor it, and also my team can kick me in the butt and say, hey, listen, you've got emails you need to respond to. So it's going to just be more efficient to use that address. And I don't know, Chris or Melissa, if you have anything else.
No, I just want to remind everybody that April 15th, Jack will be there. Chris will be there. I unfortunately will not, because it's usually the second Tuesday of every month, and I actually planned a vacation. So I'm sure Jack and Chris will handle that. Keep in mind for the apprentice students, April 12th and April 27th, that's class 3 and 4. And we thank you all for joining us, and please fill out the survey so we can try to assist you guys further, okay? And anything else, we just want to wish you have a good night. Okay. Anything else, Chris?
Nope, all good. Everybody have a great night. Thank you very much for attending, and yes, please fill out the survey and let us know how everything goes. See you all at the next meeting on the 15th.
Excellent.
Okay, thanks, everyone.